Hello! The transfer window has slammed shut. That's the last cliche we'll do now. I'm Ryan Rowe, and joining me on SunSport's latest Rangers transfer special is Gareth Law. Gareth, how are you? Was it a busy day for you yesterday?
Well, I guess everybody's kind of checking what's happening, aren't they? So I think everybody involved in Scottish football journalism yesterday was on the phones, on the internet, trying to track down players, trying to find out who players were who were coming in. So a little bit sleepy this morning, but we can now get a good night's sleep for another few months.
Yep. So first up for Rangers, we'll have the departure of an unlikely fan favourite, 2 new signings to talk about, and still what's going to happen with Nico Raskin. So we'll start first off with the big money signing, Youssef Chermiti coming in from Everton. It's a big fee, lots of potential there, but also probably fair to say a lot of questions.
I think a lot of questions, Ryan. I think it's the biggest fee Rangers have paid since Tour Andre Flo. And I guess if you'd been told before the window closed, Rangers were going to spend that amount of money on a striker, I don't think it would have been a guy who hasn't scored a goal for Everton. Now, Kevin Thelwell, Rangers sporting director, knows of him, has seen him. So I guess the reassurance would be that he knows what he can bring, the potential he's got. He's seen what he can do. He's got a good pedigree in terms of youth football academy, being at Sporting. So it's a lot of potential. I mean, the buzzword nowadays is a project player. It's a lot of money for a project player. So you would like to think that if he's coming in for that amount of money, that there's an aspect whereby, I know they brought in Bojan Miovski, who's a kind of tried and tested player ready to go in, but you'd like to think for that money that there's potential there, but there's a little bit of ready to go, can contribute straight away. Russell Martin and Rangers, they haven't got time to hang about here now. They need to get somebody who's going to produce results. So that'll be a fascinating one to see, and I think everybody will be watching that one carefully, I think, because, as I say, it's a lot of money to spend when we all know there's not a lot of money around.
Yep, no, you're exactly right. And I suppose Youssef Chermiti looks like he'll be a different kind of player to Dessers, but because Dessers has just left, people will compare him to him. And on the surface, it doesn't look like an upgrade in Dessers. We knew what his faults were, though. He could have 5 chances and it would be potluck which one he actually put away.
Yep, oh no, totally. And I think that's what we have to remember. Everybody looks at the chances Dessers missed. They were the ones that everybody moaned about, but I think he still scored something like 44 goals across 2 seasons and the games he played this season. It's a lot of goals to lose from your team, Ryan, and I think that's where the added burden will now be there on both the new strikers, because, as I say, for all the chances he missed, for all the memorable moments for the wrong reasons with Dessers, he still scored a lot of goals and important goals as well.
Now, not to liken it to this little and large setup, because I'm 5'10" anyway, but Miovski and Chermiti, Chermiti's 6'4". We haven't seen Russell Martin play a lot of 2 up top, but with 2 such different options, do you think it's a possibility, does it, or is he just too stuck in playing? He wants his style to stick.
Yeah, I mean, history would tell you that won't happen, that he'll stick with his tried and tested. But I mean, he's talked about how he's learned things from his time at Southampton. I think he gets a reputation for being, I don't know, stubborn, if you like, if that's the right word, for sticking. But I don't think that is totally accurate. I think we have seen signs, Sunday being one, that he's not rigidly going to stick to something. He spoke after the game on Sunday about how maybe they've spent a bit too much time with working on life with the ball, and Sunday seemed to show that there was another side to the way they can play, to the way he can have his teams play. So, in answer to your original question, I would imagine there'll just be the one, but the option is there now that he can try the 2 in different games if and when that's needed.
So the other big signing on deadline day was Derek Cornelius. He came in on an initial loan with an option to buy. That might please Rangers fans who have been scarred by the obligation to buy with Oscar Cortez. We've got a bit of inside information that perhaps will help Rangers fans in looking at this one, because Derek Cornelius, most of us won't have seen much of his performances in Marseille. you know someone who has.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a friend. I just happen to have a friend who's from Marseille. He's a Marseille fan. So I messaged him this morning, and I know back in the summer everybody thought Conor Cody was going to be the guy who was going to come in. That seemed to be the way things were working. He was going to come in, and we all remember what Gareth Southgate said about him in terms of what a leader he was. He was one of his best players when he wasn't even on the pitch because of what he was like behind the scenes. So Russell Martin missed out on a leader, if you like, and that has been something that's been talked about since they missed out on Conor Cody. Now, talking to my mate this morning, he says Cornelius has got a bit of that about him. He is a leader, puts the team first. He's somebody who will be up for the physical battle. There's the odd yellow card in him as well, and a mistimed tackle, so he'll fit in perfectly.
Scottish football, yeah.
But I think from what he said, you know, that he gives his all. I mean, you also look at his CV. I mean, I think he's won a couple of Swedish titles. I think he's played in Serbia. He's obviously played back home in Canada.
Yep, played at camps.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and he's obviously now been playing in France, and I think he played. I think he took part on the weekend as well. So he'll be ready to come straight in. So I think Russell Martin, I think he's 27. So I think Russell Martin will be hoping he can maybe bring that kind of leadership aspect that they have probably been missing when they've needed it in those sort of tough times.
He plays pretty much exclusively on the left-hand side. That's where John Souttar has been operating, and it doesn't seem natural for him. So what does this suggest about how Russell Martin's going to shape up this back four?
It's another one of those, isn't it? When you see a manager bringing players in, very rarely do you get managers bring players in and not play them. So, you know, he's coming in on loan, he's coming in to get game time. He wouldn't be leaving Marseille if he hadn't been told he was going to get some form of opportunity. Nasser Jager's been playing on the right, John Souttar's been playing on the left. Jager's another one of Russell Martin's signings, so I don't know what's going to happen there, if I'm honest, but I think that's going to be an interesting, I mean, don't get me wrong, you need strength in depth. Yep. You know, John Souttar's had times out injured, so I think there's obviously got to be cover there, but I don't think he'll be coming in as cover, particularly if he's got those kind of leadership qualities whereby he can be the guy who, when times are tough, he can get the team playing, you know.
Leadership qualities, that's something that has left Rangers with Cyriel Dessers leaving, you know. Quite often he was the man who, if it wasn't James Taverner, he fronted up on the bad days. He was a big character in the dressing room. And it is quite funny, the sort of character arc that he's had from being a much maligned striker to fans almost begging him to stay and not wanting him to go. I mean, how do you reflect on his time at Rangers? You know, we mentioned, you remember the chances he missed, but goals against Real Betis and Manchester United. He's a big character Rangers have lost, and he does go with the club's best wishes.
Rangers fans will miss him, Ryan, but I think Scottish football journalists will miss him as well, because he was great for the mix zone. He was great for an interview afterwards. A great guy, one of these guys who, I didn't know him, you know, greatly personally, anything like that, but when you spoke to him after games, he'd got the sort of the bright eyes. He was enthusiastic about life, about football. Even if he'd missed chances, he was still willing to come through. You know, after poor performances, he was willing to come through and speak up. So I think you're right in saying he was a leader in that aspect, and he gave, from our point of view, great copy as well. So he'll be missed that way. Yeah, I think. I mean, he came in. I think it was Michael Beale brought him in. So he was part of that kind of that group who came in, and a lot then obviously left.
Labbers and players
exactly,
like that.
And I mean, I've been thinking about this as well. Like you think, I remember going to one of Michael Beale's final games in charge. It might have been the final one, and you saw Jose Cifuentes, you know, make a couple of missed passes, and the fans got on his back, and you could see him go. It was as if he sort of went into his shell, and he wasn't the only one. There were other players, and I think a big part of what made Dessers so good was he got some amount of stick, you know, when things didn't go right, but he had that, whether you want to call it arrogance, belief, whatever it was, that he would just get up and go again. So many of the players, I think, who Michael Beale brought in didn't have that as much, and I think that's a big part of the players Russell Martin brings in, even Brendan Rodgers brings in at Celtic, that as well as having ability and talent, when they come to Glasgow, you've got to have that belief and that self-confidence to almost like you hear the crowd, but you forget the crowd. And I think that's where the players who Russell Martin has brought in have got to maybe sometimes adapt and just get used to it if they're not used to it. Some of them can't get used to it, but that's the big test, I think, and that's where Dessers will be missed, I think.
That's an excellent point, and it moves us on nicely to probably reflecting on the transfer window as a whole. So, I mean, Rangers fans, let us know in the comments what you think of the 2 deadline day signings, and of course, how do you feel about Cyriel Dessers leaving the club for Panathinaikos? Rangers have done well to flip the likes of Jefte and Hamza Igamane for big profits. You briefly mentioned Cifuentes, he's also out, but there's still some deadwood in the case of, Kieran Dowell's probably not going to play much. A couple of other players have left on loan. But what have you made, of the business Rangers have done getting players out, and then in the very early stages, what have you made of the new signings so far that you've seen?
I think if you'd said you'd get 6 million for Jefte, you'd be quite happy with that. So I think that was a big tick. If you don't want him at the club and you can get 6 million based on what he's done at Rangers, I think that was excellent business. We also Hamza Igamane did in the final days at Rangers.
It was untenable, wasn't it?
Totally, and I mean, you look at Alexander Isak, you look at Johan Visser down in England. What they did as well, it's becoming a concerning part of the game, I think, because all 3 of them got their own way ultimately. So there's no incentive the other way to not show that doesn't work now. If you want to go, you chuck your toys at the pram. But saying that, when you know a player wants to leave, to still get the kind of money Rangers got for him, I thought that was quite an achievement in itself as well for a guy who'd barely been in Scotland, and the markup that Rangers got. So you could argue both of those were actually, from a financial point of view, quite good business. The rest, I mean, you can't say it otherwise at the moment. Right now, as we speak here, with the window closed, that the jury's still out on the players that have come in purely on results and performances right now. Sunday showed potential, but they've now got to go out and do that every day of the week. The difficult game coming up next. Yep, Hearts will be flying. Yeah, so I think that could arguably be a bigger sign of where this Rangers squad is going under Russell Martin. I think he's relied on a lot of players from down south. I think we mentioned the defence already. He's relied on a lot of loan signings, but that could be circumstantial. So in terms of if he needs to get bodies in and he wants to get bodies out and put his own stamp on it, it's not going to happen overnight. You have to kind of slowly build it, and everybody now relies on the loan market. I think Gassama, he showed signs as we all saw in his early days, but has kind of he's gone off the boil a little bit as well. Antman came on, burst onto the scene. So I think there's still a lot of work there. I think Miovski will be a top signing. Standout? I think he would. I mean, I think when initially it looked like he was going to come on loan, and you could kind of understand that from Girona not wanting to lose a player of his calibre, but at the same time he's not really done it out in Spain. But when you see what he did at Aberdeen, even speaking after the game on Sunday, the way he was sort of sitting there, he looks comfortable in his own skin. Talk about these guys who've got the mentality to deal with playing for the old firm, and just the way he spoke, just the way he plays. I think he will turn out to be the best of the bunch. I think he also knows the Scottish game, which, again, going back to what I said earlier, I think that counts for a lot more than sometimes people give it credit. Now, there was a huge question mark about Nicholas Raskin's future. He bombed out of the squad, the senior players backing Russell Martin. We had that exclusive over the weekend, and then again yesterday we had the story that he will be welcomed back in. Him and Russell Martin are going to hold clear the air talks. How do you see that one going? How do you integrate a player that, by all accounts, had a complete breakdown with the manager? How do we see that going? Well, we talked a moment ago about player power forcing moves. I guess that was one you could look at and say, well, the manager's won that one a little bit. I mean, if Raskin was trying to force his way out, we don't know on that side of things. But there was the fallout. Russell Martin was under. That was the last thing Russell Martin needed, was to have to do that. So his father said, and all these kind of things. But I guess, you can't argue. The manager has got to show his leadership qualities there. He's shown them already by bombing him out of the squad. That was a big call. Easy option would have been to leave him in the squad, and it wouldn't have been the talk around the lineup. So now Raskin's away on international duty, so it's going to bubble away longer than probably both would have liked. Maybe time away from each other will do them good. Possibly. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops now. In a sense, as I say, Russell Martin dealt with that. You could argue in the right way. The club dealt with it in the right way. But now it's arguably about Raskin coming cap in hand to Russell Martin to try and salvage his future. He knows he will be at Rangers for the next however many months, 3-4 months
at least,
come what may. So either he works with him or he doesn't play. I mean, that is the fact now, isn't it?
Yep. So Raskin remains a Rangers player. I think most Rangers fans would be happy with that. Now, I'm just about to ask Gareth, but Rangers fans, let us know the transfer window as a whole. Are you happy with who's left? You know, the money that you've received, players also that clearly weren't going to feature going out on loan. Now, as we have said, it's early days. We've only seen little flashes of the likes of Asgard. You know, Manny Fernandez has featured in one game. Gassam and Antman that we've said both started well, but on the surface, where are you seeing, will this go down as a good, bad or ugly transfer window for Rangers? I
guess the one thing, we know what's happening across the city, and Celtic fans are unhappy with the number of players they haven't brought in. Rangers fans can't be unhappy with the number of players they brought in. It's now just to determine just how good they are and the quality, and I'd say the mentality. So you're right, we're sitting here on whatever we are, September the 2nd. You could argue that a lot of them, have, the jury's still out. They've still got a lot to prove. You look at somebody like Joe Rothwell, for example. I thought he would be a really good signing. You see what he did down south. Arguably one of those leaders you could look at, but I don't think he's shown. We haven't quite seen it yet. No, and obviously there's been that question mark: can Raskin play with Rothwell? Can Rothwell play with Raskin? All those kind of things as well. So I think Sunday showed that they can. I mean, well, the other one is Max Aarons as well. I mean, you're talking about Rangers fans who were desperate, some of them, to get James Tavernier out of the side. Personally, I thought Max Aarons would be a good signing as well when he signed.
Came a good pedigree.
Yeah, exactly. But arguably, he's made Rangers fans, wish for James Tavernier to be back in the team. Made James Tavernier a better player in their eyes, in a sense. And so I think guys like your Aarons, your Rothwells, guys who aren't project players. These are now guys who have been around the game, who have got experience, good and bad. And I think sort of the focus should be on those players more now. They need to really stand up, and the manager's put his faith in them, put his neck on the block for them. And I think now they need to start showing signs that, right, we're getting used to what he wants, but also the Goldfish Bowl that they play in.
Yep, the Glasgow Goldfish Bowl, the Scottish Football Goldfish Bowl. It's exciting as always. Thank you for joining us for this Rangers Transfer Roundup. Now, across the YouTube channel, we will have one for Celtic as well. You can watch that. We'll also have more one-on-ones with Derek McGregor and the latest episode of The Set Piece.